I've never been afraid of the dark. At least that's what I always told myself. Until I worked my first night shift at the old medical facility on the edge of town. It was a crumbling, outdated hospital that had been closed for years, but the owners kept it open for a few skeletal staff to monitor security. It was a job I needed, and I wasn't the type to scare easily. The first few shifts were uneventful. The building was silent, save for the occasional hum of the air conditioning and the distant groans of the old pipes. But that all changed one night, around 2:30 a.m., when I was making my rounds through the East Wing. The East Wing was abandoned. No patients, no staff, nothing but empty rooms. I always hated it down there. The flickering lights and the cold drafts gave the place an eerie vibe. I'd been through it a dozen times, but that night felt different. There was an unnatural stillness in the air, as if the building itself was holding its breath. I was walking down the long corridor, checking each door to make sure they were properly locked, when I heard it. At first I thought it was just the wind, the building settling, but then I heard it again. A soft, dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. My blood ran cold. I stood still, straining my ears. The sound wasn't coming from any of the rooms, but from farther down the hallway. It was coming from the area where the old elevator shaft used to be. I tried to brush it off as a pipe or something else, but the dragging sound grew louder, closer. It was unmistakable now. Something, or someone, was moving in the darkness. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and my heart began to race. I walked slowly toward the noise, my flashlight trembling in my hand. As I rounded the corner, I saw it. At the far end of the hallway in the dim light, a figure was crouched low to the ground. It was dragging itself along the floor, one arm bent unnaturally behind its back. The figure was so thin, so impossibly long, that it looked like a human skeleton covered in loose skin. But the worst part was its head. Its face was smooth, featureless, like someone had scraped away all its features. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just smooth, pale skin. The figure stopped moving when it heard me. It slowly turned its head, and that's when I saw its mouth. A thin, jagged slit opened wide, stretching unnaturally. A sound like a whisper or a hiss echoed through the hall as it turned toward me. The shadowed figure began to crawl in my direction, moving with a speed that didn't seem possible. I felt my legs freeze to the floor. My breath caught in my throat. It was too late to run. I was trapped in the hallway. The only way out was through that thing. The temperature dropped, the air thick with a presence I couldn't explain. I could feel it now, something cold, something ancient. It was the feeling of being hunted. Then it spoke. Its voice was barely a whisper, but it echoed in my mind. You shouldn't have come. I've been waiting for you. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My body felt paralyzed, as if the air around me had become a physical weight pressing down on me. The creature reached out with one long skeletal hand, its fingers curling toward me. And then I saw it. Behind the figure in the darkness of the hallway, there was something else, another shadow. But this shadow wasn't just standing still. It was moving, slowly, slithering toward me, like something alive and hungry. It was larger, bulkier, with the same smooth, featureless face. But this one had long, sharp claws, scraping against the floor with every step. I couldn't breathe. The first creature reached out and touched my ankle with one cold, clammy hand. The moment it made contact, I felt something snap inside me, like my very soul was being torn apart. I gasped for air, but the world began to go black. My knees buckled, and I collapsed to the floor, my vision blurring. And that's when I heard it, the voice now louder, clearer, like it was inside my head. "It's too late now. We've already been inside you. You'll never leave." I tried to push myself up, to run, but my body wouldn't respond. My eyes darted around the hallway, but all I saw were shadows. The darkness was swallowing everything, pulling me deeper. The creatures were surrounding me, their claws scraping closer and closer. Their hollow, featureless faces loomed over me, and the last thing I felt before everything went dark was the cold, clammy touch of their hands on my skin. I woke up in the security office, my head pounding. I was lying on the floor, drenched in sweat. I looked around. Everything was back to normal. The hospital was silent. I was alone. But as I stood up, I noticed something that made my stomach turn. On the security monitor, the camera footage of the hallway was still playing. The timestamp showed it was just a few minutes before the end of my shift. But on the screen, there was one unmistakable detail. At the far end of the hallway, in the darkness, I could see myself. The figure was dragging itself down the hallway toward me. My own face, featureless, smiling in that same wide, jagged grin. And as the camera zoomed in on my reflection, I heard that voice again. "You're still here, and you'll never leave."